I feel like we stepped it up today because there is a construction outside, there's a chainsaw, there's a construction upstairs. Welcome to my ASMR room. Roll the tape! Hello book reading friends, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Mel and today I bring you all the books that I read in the month of May, also known as my May wrap-up. So basically today I'm gonna do a rundown of all of the books that I read in May, my final reviews, my final ratings, all of my thoughts, what you need to know if there are any trigger warnings, if a book is particularly good or particularly bad. Today we're gonna get down with the good, the bad, and the dirty. I personally love looking at book reviews or reading vlogs before I go out and buy a book, even if I am a creator. I love doing that. They are definitely some of my favorite videos, so I love making them as well. And I know this is a little bit late, but better late than ever. So that's all that matters today. I read a total of 12 books, surprisingly, which is less than I've read in the past. I don't know if it was February or March, I read like 19 books and it was like consistently between like 15 and 20, which was like crazy. And then last month I read a lot of mangas, but I also read a lot of books. I'm not gonna talk about the mangas today. If you do want to know all of my reviews and thoughts on those mangas that I read last month, I do have an entire reading vlog on that, so I'm gonna keep that self-contained to that so as to not make this video extremely lengthy, which my wrap-ups already are. Before we do get started with the video though, I do want to give a massive shout out to the sponsor of today's video, which is Native. Now for the last few months I have gone on this rabbit hole of really just researching products and finding products that are the best for my skin and that really have the right ingredients to suit my skin type and that just feel great when I put them on. And so Native really came at the right time for me because not only are they sulfate free, but they're also paraben free and aluminum free. Besides that, what is really great about Native is that they use a lot of simple familiar ingredients that you may be familiarized with, like coconut oil and shea butter, and they are also vegan and cruelty free, which is honestly really freaking cool. So I recently got 3 deodorants from Native and they smell heavenly, you guys. Like, I'm not even kidding. And if I had to choose a favorite, it would definitely be the coconut and vanilla. There's just something about the scent that is like so reminiscent to home and like the tropicalness. But then a close second would definitely be the Midnight Jasmine and Sage. This one just has such a peculiar smell. I feel like, yes, it smells fresh, but it has a little bit of muskiness as like an undertone, or maybe it's just me, but lavender and rose honestly still smell so good. They do last all day, even through exercise and through a full day of work. Not only that, but it's non-sticky and also dries super quickly, which is really great for on the go because you can just touch up really quickly and not really concern yourself with whether or not it's going to stain your clothing. They have also just released a bunch of new summer scents, so there's a wide range of choices. And if you do go onto their website, you will note that Native has a lot of other things to offer, like toothpaste and body wash, which is really great if you want to treat yourself and your body to a little something. And it is so great to know that Native is currently partnering with the LGBT Asylum Project. This is basically a non-profit organization based in San Francisco that is dedicated to providing accessible legal representation to members of the LGBTQ+ community seeking refuge, security, and safety within the city. So by donating these funds to the organization, Native will help the Asylum Project offer advice to hundreds more people and make them feel as safest as possible. So if you do want to check Native out, 3 deodorants are usually $36, but if you use my link and code, which I will be leaving on the screen as well as on the description box, you can get them for $24, which basically adds up to around 33% off. Not only that, but if you also use my code, you can get 20% off body washes and toothpaste. So yes, thank you so much to Native for sponsoring today's video. And without further ado, let's get into all of the books that I read in the month of May. All right, people, starting in hot, I'm probably gonna go in the order that I read the books in so that I don't forget anything. Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. This one was absolutely incredible. I think the fact that I went into this with 0 to none expectations of like having a good experience reading this really made this a great experience. Everybody hates on this book, basically. Like, everybody who's read the Brown Sisters trilogy, I feel like they hate Chloe, they love Danny, some of them love Eve, and some of them kind of like Eve. And so I am definitely on the minority, or from what I've seen, the minority, where I loved Chloe. I felt like this was such a great first book in a standalone companion series. I just really like how right off the bat you get to see a lot of different dynamics as to who Chloe is. First of all, it starts out super shocking. It really allows you to see how Chloe kind of acts in situations of like distress and situations of stress, and that right off the bat was absolutely incredible. Absolutely loved her. And then it also does a really great job at letting you know how she gets along with her sisters, which is the biggest part of this because this is obviously the Brown Sisters trilogy, and you can tell right off the bat how close they are, how tight-knit their relationship is, and how really they depend on each other so much but let each other be their own different people. struggle. I just love the way that they constantly tell you, like, we don't cancel plans with each other and we constantly go out together and we're there to support each other and to take care of each other, and it's so refreshing to see siblings be so tight. This book was definitely really great in terms of the dynamic between the love interests, and I really liked that both of them were going through completely separate struggles, and going through those struggles is really what prevents them to be together at a point, but also to come together, because they can truly help each other overcome a lot of what is happening. So I really just enjoyed this one a lot, but it does include a lot of themes about chronic illnesses and a lot of themes of emotional and physical abuse in a relationship, and so I really just like how Talia Hibbert highlights all of these things and touches upon all of them very respectfully. So I ended up giving this one a 4-star, but honestly, like, in hindsight, like, I just want to give this a 4.5 because it's like that good. I really had a great time with this. And next up, I read Lore, and this was one of my book club picks for Patreon. I really enjoyed Lore as well. Like, I annotated it and I also had a great time with this, mostly because a lot of people had been giving this book a 1-star or just DNFing it altogether, and I completely see and understand where those people are coming from, because this book is not for everyone. So in this one, we follow a world where the Aegon takes place every 7 years, and that is basically an event where Zeus banishes all of the gods from Olympus to Earth, and they basically give people from this Greek secret society a pass, like literally a free pass, onto hunting these gods, killing them, and potentially obtaining their powers to become immortal. And we follow specifically Lore, whose parents were killed many years in the past in the same secret society, and she basically gets a knock on the door by Athena, who demands help because she has been hurt in the Aegon, and from there a lot of stuff twists, just craziness starts going down. I think if you are into DC Comics, the prologue of this book really gave me DC Comics vibes, like General Zod from Superman, like really great. But also, if you're really into Greek mythology, I'd say go on to this one. However, if you do not enjoy mythology, do not even consider going into this book. It is so heavy with the world building. It can feel potentially info dumpy. So if you're not into any of that, I will literally tell you right now, steer clear of this book, because you're either going to be bored out of your mind or hate the crap out of this book. That being said though, both of those elements I really liked, because I like both of those things. I like DC Comics and I really like Greek mythology. The ending of this book was really plot convenient. Like, I hated the ending of this book. It was not it. I really do feel like it would have benefited from being a duology instead of a standalone book, because this is a standalone fantasy, and I didn't love Lore as a main character, which is like ironic to say now, because I fell in love more so with the side characters. Miles, who is Lore's best friend and he is a human, and then Castor, who is Lore's best friend and he is obviously involved with the secret society that kills gods, and I really loved them and the way that they presented themselves in the story to be kind of like a helping hand no matter what is going on, no matter who they need to sacrifice themselves for. And it is very brave of Miles to do that, first because he's a human, and of Castor because it's not really his job to do so. And so I really enjoyed the bravery, loyalty, and love from both of these characters. Lore was just like a little bit whiny to me, and I just didn't end up loving her. So there was definitely a lot about this book that I didn't really care for, and there was also a lot about this book that I really loved. So I initially gave this book a 4-star. I just don't know if it's a 4-star. Like, the more that I talk about it, I feel like the more I think about this book, like the more negatives I find. It was still very enjoyable though, so I feel like I'd give this now probably a 3-star instead of a 4, but it could be like all across the board depending on what you enjoy. Oh boy. Undercover Bromance by Lyssa Kay Adams. I have talked about this book so many times and all of the reasons why I didn't like this book. So for this one, I think I'm just going to refer you to the latest weekly vlog that I uploaded. So if you want to know my thoughts on this, I'll just refer you to that, because I feel like I've talked about this book probably in 3 different videos by now, and I have talked all about why I do not like this book, and so I don't think I need to go into any more detail about it because I don't want to be too repetitive, because I feel like a lot of these books were already in videos. So I'm kind of just giving you like my wrapping thoughts on them. My wrap-up thoughts on them. All I'm gonna say is I gave this initially 3 stars. The more that I think about this book, it's definitely a 2-star. Next up, I also read Wicked Fox by Kat Cho, and I have also talked about this book in like 2 different videos. I am gonna talk about this though, because I absolutely adored the heck out of this book. 5 out of 5 stars, absolutely no doubt. Didn't know what I was getting myself into with this one, because from what I had heard, people had not loved this book, and the ones who had like really love it, but the ones that really hated this book like really hated it, which I feel is like the case with any given book. But with this one in particular, I just hadn't heard a lot of great things, and so I went into into this not knowing what to expect, and I just came out with the biggest smile on my face because I had loved this. So in this one, we follow Mi-young, who is a Gumiko, which is a nine-tailed fox, and she needs to consume the souls of men in order to stay alive. And one day, strolling through the woods in one of her hunting sessions, she actually stumbles upon Yi-hoon, who is in danger. And for the first time, she commits an act of heroism, and it goes wrong. She loses her fox bead in the midst of that heroic act, and she needs to get her bead back before she actually dies, given a period of time. There's just so many great things to highlight about this one. Like, first off, folklore and lore in this one, 10 out of 10. The chapters alternate between giving you that folklore and then giving you the present timeline. Guys, when you figure out what the heck this folklore is about, you will literally poop your pants, because I didn't expect that at all. Like, absolutely adore the folklore element of this book, and it also beyond that contained so many elements of familial dynamics, friendship dynamics, romantic dynamics, but in particular what really shines here is those familial dynamics, because not only do you get Mi-young, who has a very complicated relationship with her mom. You can tell her mom has a lot of expectations as to what Mi-young should be doing and saying, because she is a Yena's daughter, and Yena's daughter will not bring shame to the family, and Yena's daughter will not say. And it was very frustrating to read about that dynamic and how that expectation got in the way and overshadowed that love that they both had for each other. It was just very complicated. It was very just saddening to read about. And then on the other hand, you also have Ji-hoon, whose parents walked out when he was very young. He lives with his Halmyeoni, and you can tell that both of these characters have struggled so much in terms of family, and they have a lot of trauma based on the familial dynamics that they've experienced. And it was just really touching to see that even in such a fantastical setting, because it really is, like, it is set in a contemporary world, but we're talking about very like mythical creatures. It still was really great to see these characters appear as human as they did. It read very much like a K-drama, so if you're into that, then you'll absolutely love this book. There's just not many bad things to say about this book, like, at all. I annotated this to Phil. I took my time with it. It was such a great time, and I do not regret reading this for like a single second. Like, if you've been thinking about getting into it and you haven't yet, please do. Like, do me a favor, do it. I also read The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave last month, and this one I gave 4 stars to. And this is a thriller following Hannah after her husband Owen disappears, and he disappears due to a claim being done against the company he worked and invested in of embezzlement and fraud. And he only leaves 2 things behind, and that is a case full of money and a note saying, protect her. Protect her meaning his daughter, Bailey, who obviously Hannah is the stepmom to, and they will basically go on this, I won't say adventure because it's like not really an adventure, but they will travel around and ask people and just investigate as much as possible to figure out exactly why Owen has gone missing and why he is running away from what is happening right now. This one definitely took me by surprise. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I had heard nobody speak about this. The only reason why I picked this up is because one of my patrons was raving about it and how much he was enjoying it, and I was like, okay, getting into it, because I was actually in the mood for a thriller, and this is more of a mystery or a suspense than it is a thriller. But it definitely was very interesting to see in a book format a lot of FBI, US Marshal investigations, and the talk of embezzlement and fraud, and the talk about businesses, and the talk about suspects and interviewing, and just everything in between, you know, behind like an investigation. That was really interesting. And obviously this book was very mysterious in the sense that you knew absolutely nothing of Owen, who is the husband. Before this whole thing happened, you never really got to see them all together. You only get little glimpses of him as Hannah tells the story, and so the story was kept very much ominous for the entirety of the journey. And what I really enjoyed about this one is the talk about motherhood, like stepmotherhood I should say, and perhaps stepchildren not really accepting you as, you know, one of the heads of the house, really coming to terms with the fact that not everybody is going to click right away, and it may take a tragedy in order to bring people together. It felt very real. It felt very natural in the way that it progressed, because obviously if you come from a different household, you know, you've dealt with a single parent, and that single parent mingling and dating and bringing people home and introducing you to them, you can be quite skeptical of meeting those people. And so I liked how genuine the conversation seemed surrounding that. Marriage doesn't necessarily mean that the kids will trust the person. And again, that journey with Hannah and Bailey was really beautiful, and the way that this book ended really brought me to tears, because it felt not only very full circle, but again, it felt very natural in the way that things happen, and that I really enjoyed. Okay, so this next one is is a bit of an interesting one, and this is The Damned by Renee Ahdieh. Now, in this one, unlike the first one, I should say, we follow Celine, who comes from Paris, and she is a dressmaker, and she goes to New Orleans in the 1800s, and once she gets there, she really does get in the middle of a war between creatures of night, and she is also now being targeted by the serial killer who is out on the loose in New Orleans, and she meets Sebastian, who is one of those mysterious creatures involved in the supernatural world. We just don't really know what he is. The book does a really great job, at least the first one, at being very vague of what the creatures were, who was what, and how the world worked. In this one, however, everything gets explained, and it gets explained quite quickly. What I liked about this book was the fact that a lot of the regular pieces of lore with like werewolves and vampires was kind of subverted to kind of fit the Saint Germain family, which I really personally enjoyed. So that part of it was really great. What I will say about this book is that it was very repetitive. It was very slow. There was constantly the mention of like, oh, the damned, or like, oh, I'm damned, or like, oh, be damned. And so everything was kind of about that for like the first 100 or so pages, and it continues to like being brought up throughout the book. So that part of it was really repetitive, and I find because you have different POVs on this one, I find that Sebastian's chapters were the most repetitive, and that was really just the biggest part of this book. It also has one trope that I won't mention what it is so as to not give anything away, that I don't particularly enjoy reading. It worked on this one though, it really did. I just found it a little bit tedious and a little bit too long of a time to get to a place where that was resolved. I really just expected this book to be self-contained to a certain demographic of creatures within the supernatural world, and it definitely expanded beyond that by a lot, and I wasn't expecting that in the slightest. And so the fact that I probably wasn't expecting that, because the way that this book is sold, or at least the way that it was sold to me, was like a romance between a witch and a vampire. That is not what this book is. I find when you get into the kind of lore or the world building of this story, in this book in particular, it was just so grand and like so beyond what I was expecting that I was like, this is a little bit not what I wanted. Like, this is very much not what I wanted. And so I kind of blame the expectation that I had going into this and the expectation that had been installed in me before going into this. So I initially gave this book 3 stars, but like really when I look at it, it's like the world building was really interesting and it really will work out for the story. I just feel like this definitely suffered from like second book syndrome. So I will bump up my rating to a 4-star just because, again, in hindsight and kind of taking all of those little pieces of expectations that I had, the book was really good and the book was really interesting in that world building, which was like the majority of like the last third. So it is a very solid book. It just definitely isn't my favorite, and I do think I will enjoy The Righteous, which comes out this year, a lot better than this one. Of course, I had to read about the loves of my life, Nick and Charlie. Hello. This is the little novella, and this definitely does take place after the Heartstoppers, but it's totally okay for you to read this in the midst of the Heartstoppers because obviously they are not all out yet. But this one takes place as Nick is going to college, and it deals a lot with that conversation of long distance relationships and like what happens to us now, what will our dynamic be, what will we do, and how will we maintain this relationship alive when so many people have just given up or it's been incredibly difficult for them. This definitely felt a lot more adult in the themes that it talked about. Obviously in the previous Heartstoppers and like the actual graphic novels, we had seen a lot of themes surrounding depression and surrounding eating disorders and OCD and bullying and homophobia, and this one felt a little bit more light in terms of those, and it really was great. It was super cute as always. It still maintained some of those illustrations that we obviously see in Heartstopper, and I just think it was a really cute moment. It was a 5-star, like obviously like it's for Nick and Charlie. Like I just love them so much. I just couldn't imagine myself giving this anything lower than that because again, it's like a little novella. Like it's like you know what to expect when you're reading novellas. It's like it's not gonna be on par with the actual graphic novels or with an actual book. So this was just really great, and this also definitely takes place after Solitaire, which is Tori's book. This is Solitaire 1.5, so this is a novella. I had such a great time with this one too. Freaking Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. You guys, absolutely adored this book. Like here's the thing, and I mentioned this in my reading vlog where I read this, which was a 48-hour readathon vlog. I really mentioned how much lyrical writing means to me, how much it resonates with me based on my own fears and expectations of life, and this one really just hit so close in so many different levels. Strange the Dreamer is definitely not for everyone, but it was for me. That's what I'm gonna preface this by saying. Not for everyone, but definitely for me. I don't think I had ever quite experienced something as lyrical as this. I had read Addie previous to this, and I really enjoyed it, but it's nowhere near as lyrical as this is. Like, this is just on like a whole other level of poeticism, poeticness, poetical. It's just very poetic. So in this one, we follow Laszlo Strange, who is a librarian, and Laszlo has been dreaming of the lost city of Weep for years. That is not the real name of the city. The city's name has been forgotten for a long time, and so they have deemed it now the City of Weep, and he dreams of fantastical settings and beautiful landscapes and just all of the grandeur that he thinks this city has to offer. And he has been yearning to figure out this mystery for years because he is one of the only people who actually remembers what happened, or loosely so. And one day he gets the opportunity to actually go to the lost city of Weep, where he will get all of his questions answered throughout the way. Oh my god, the ending of this book was absolutely crazy. I kind of saw it coming, but I had convinced myself that like, that's not what's gonna happen here. Like, I don't know how that may happen, but it's a possibility. And so when it did, when it was revealed, when the ending finally came up, you know that little meme of like Monka is? That's me. Huh? That was me by the end of this book. Like, I couldn't believe what I was reading. I really liked all of the conversations about feeling inadequate and society deeming you a certain thing that you may not necessarily be, and how you can overcome all of those things, and how even if it doesn't look like it, like everybody has something to offer and everybody has made some sort of impact for as little as it seems. And I just really like all of that. It's just, it really made me really emotional reading this, and I could relate to a lot of the feelings that Laszlo had, again, of like inadequacy and like feeling 10 steps behind, being tried by society to fit into this mold that, you know, if you're not completely educated and if you haven't gone to college and you don't have a degree, that you are less than, that you are 10 steps behind, that you can't get a job, that you can't do this, that you can't do the next thing, and that they basically just don't want you to be great. And so I just really loved all of that. Truly fantastic in my opinion. And it is truly one of the few books that I have read recently where I have completely given myself into the story, where I have been completely immersed with what was happening, where I could picture everything in my surroundings. It was just, because there was so much description, because obviously this is lyrical, it really lent itself to establish such a magical world that it was just so easy, just so easy. 5 out of 5 stars. Dani Brown? Okay, Dani. I have a few things to squash with Miss Dani, because I didn't love Miss Dani as much as the people love her, and I love that the people do. I just don't. Like, Dani's not for me. And obviously, in Take a Hint, Dani Brown, we follow Dani Brown, and she is a little bit of a skeptic in love. She doesn't really believe in it. She doesn't really want anything to do with it, except when she does. She basically asks the universe for the perfect romantic partner, something that is just there for the casual stuff, but somebody who's not there for the actual relationship side of it. And that's where you enter Saf into the equation. Saf, who is very much handsome, very much into Dani, and very much the hero of the story. And basically what happens is that a fire drill goes wrong, and he, in a very heroic act, rescues Dani from the building, and somebody records that, puts that up on the internet, and they now have to fake a relationship, not only for Saf's benefit, because he has his own organization that helps people deal with anxiety, but also because Dani, again, asks the world, the universe, for that perfect romantic partner. That's where the story goes. I really had an issue with this book in the sense that Dani is not really the main character of the story. The main character of the story is Saf. Like, let's just call it as it is. Like, Saf is truly the centerpiece of the story. You get to know Saf a lot more than you get to know Dani. You know everything that Saf has gone through, the fact that he deals with anxiety, the fact that he has his organization. They fake a relationship for his benefit, not for hers. Obviously, she gets something in return. There's steam, there's a little bit of, you know, but really the book is about Saf, about his familial dynamic, about his struggles, about how he wants to overcome them. And then there's a little bit of Dani sprinkled on top. I, again, didn't vibe with that sense of the book. I rarely got to know Dani as the main character of this book. She still very much felt like a plot device to me, not only for her sister's stories at certain points, but also to Saf's story. She didn't feel like a main character. She still felt like a side character to me. There was virtually no development to Dani's character, so I ended up giving it 3 stars. Again, I really enjoyed what I read. I just don't know if I'd call this Take a Hint Dani Brown the love of my life. I of course read Fence Volume 2, and this feels like I read it so long ago, just because by the point that I'm filming this, I have already read volumes 3 and 4. In Fence, it is a graphic novel about fencing, so it is like a sports-centered graphic novel, and in particular we follow Nicholas, who is the bastard son of a famous Spencer, and he wants to prove to himself and to everybody else that he doesn't need professional training or anything crazy in order to make it in the fencing world. However, he does apply to this very prestigious academy that could potentially offer him a sports scholarship to get not only into the fencing team, but to stay in that school and have the best education whilst at the same time competing in something that he really much enjoys. And so what I really like about Fence is that not only is it very LGBT, like the representation in here with that is really fantastic. I can sense a few things coming in later, like the actual novelizations of Fence that I am really excited about. The sportsmanship in here, you can tell that yes, these people are rivals, but there's still a certain level of respect given, again, the craftsmanship of sports that is really great and really realistic. Doesn't matter who you're competing against, doesn't matter what team they are on, you can still recognize that they're an incredible athlete and you can still push yourself to the max to not only be as great as them, but to surpass them in skill. I really like the way that Fence talks about all of that. I really like the tension between Seiji and Nicholas. I think they are mirrors of each other in a lot of different ways where they both have so much to prove. Not only because one of them is literally one of the greatest fencers in the country in like their age group, but because the other one just wants to prove himself as a fencer, period. And so they recognize each other's level of skill and they constantly are at each other's throats in order to beat each other and to, again, push each other constantly. And I just like how they mirror each other in that sense. It's just such a fantastic story. I cannot say enough things about Fence. Fence is definitely one of those graphic novel series that I don't know what to feel when I am reading this because I am laughing and crying at the same time. It's one of those, and I just really enjoy my time with these. I just wish there was like 100 volumes of Fence. It has the potential to run on for so long, but there's only 4 of them, and then there's novels. So I guess I'll settle with what is out, but I just wish this was like so many more volumes than it actually is. Obviously safe to say 5 stars, obviously. Clearly this was the month for the Brown sisters because I also read To Your Age, Eve Brown, and this is definitely my favorite out of the 3 of them. This one was a 5 out of 5 stars for me. In this one we follow Eve, and she is basically what her parents call a train wreck. She has never followed any of the societal standards, any rules that her parents have placed. She has taken a very different route than her sisters have. She is constantly changing careers and dropping out of majors in college. She doesn't really have a definitive aim as to where she wants to go in life, and her parents are constantly telling her, like, literally, act your age, Eve, like, do something adult-like prove your worth, show us what you're made of. And her parents' last straw was really a wedding that she basically ruined. There was an accident with some birds and she was blamed for it, and her parents basically take her allowance, her inheritance away from her in order to right all of her wrongs, and she will go out to hunt for a job, and she finds one in a bed and breakfast where she meets our love interest Jacob, and there she accidentally, not so accidentally, runs him over with her car, and she is basically the only option he has for a chef at his bed and breakfast. And so that's where the story starts, and I just really, again, like Eve as a character. You just see Eve being completely lost or seemingly lost with what she wants to do. Again, she is constantly switching careers. She doesn't really have a one specific path she wants to go down in, and her parents are very much bugged by that, but they don't understand that Eve is really a free soul and she will do whatever she wants to do, and she doesn't need to be tied in by a title or by a job because she likes being able to immerse herself in 10 different things. She doesn't fit that one mold that her parents want to put her into, and even if that makes her feel inadequate at times, and even if that has brought a lot of struggle and a lot of fights and a lot of anxiety and a lot of tears, she knows who she is and she is not bothered by who she is. She just embraces herself completely, and even if there is a label that she could put to her, she isn't even bothered to do that because she loves who she is, and she doesn't feel like it's needed in order for her to know who she truly is. And I just love Eve as a character. There's just so many levels to Eve that I can relate to on such a personal note. I was just reading this and I was like, I feel like this is for me. It just reassured me. So I don't want to cry, but it just reassured me in so many things, and it just made me like realize a lot of things and like research a lot of things that I was just going into, and I was just in awe of how much I loved Eve as a character. She was so unapologetically herself, and Jacob too was such a compelling magnetic character. He was so funny and, again, so unapologetically himself. There is autism spectrum rep in here, and it was done, I mean, I have no experience in it, but I personally think it was done really well, and I really enjoyed their dynamic together and how they bounced off each other so well. Like, their chemistry was so instant. Every character had a voice of their own, and even Jacob's best friend, like, he was absolutely fantastic in the book too. I just absolutely love the direction that this book took, how it started, the middle, the end. There was just nothing about this book that I disliked. So if you're looking for a steamy book out of the three, this is the one. Like, I'm talking whip out an 8-inch purple dildo is what I'm talking about. Yes. Yes. 5 out of 5 stars. I'll probably reread this at some point. I probably will. And then last but not least, this month, I also read last month, May. You know what I'm talking about. Skyward by Brandon Sanderson, which I have talked so many times about. But this one we follow Spensa, and her dad was a pilot, except that her dad was once deemed a coward and a traitor, and her family was basically left in shambles and in shame, quite literally, and she will stop at nothing now to become a pilot herself. This was also another one of my Patreon book club picks for May, and I don't know what I was expecting out of a Brandon Sanderson book, but I guess this is what I was expecting from a Brandon Sanderson book, if that makes sense. It was so easy to read for a sci-fi, starting from there, the way that he kept it as simple as possible, but still making it like intergalactic and still making it so action-packed. There were a lot of action sequences in this book that I absolutely adored. He is a master at writing all of those. I was just picturing the craziest things in my head and having the best time reading this book. I have absolutely no regrets about reading this. I tapped this to filth too. It was a great balance of action with comedy, with deep-rooted complexes, with tragedy and sadness and happiness and self-love and motivation and character development. He managed to pack everything in here, and Spensa is definitely a character that comes across as very unlikable at first, but as the story progresses, you start to see how she shifts in behavior, and you can tell what is the trigger for that. And for that, I very much appreciate that part alone of the book. And then add to that all of the other characters that we had in here, like Embot. Embot was absolutely hilarious. The fact that we have a talking ship in here that will literally compliment you and insult you at the same time. It's just so genius. And then you have people like Jorgen too, which starts out as a very unlikable character and slowly but surely starts becoming one of the most likable characters in this book. You have all of Spensa's classmates too that just went through so much stuff together, and it was just so sad to see all of these kids go through all of these things, but also so empowering to see how they got past all of those hurdles. It was just a fantastic book. 5 out of 5 stars. Cannot say enough good things about Skyward. I feel like I've talked about Skyward for like the last few videos. So yes, you guys, that is my May wrap up. Those are all of the books that I read in the month of May, not including my manga, which again, if you do want to check out the manga video, I will be leaving it linked down below. Let me know down in the comments what you guys read in the month of May, if there were any particularly amazing books that you read. Also, let me know all of that down in the comments. If you reached the end of this video, let's leave some fencing emojis. Why not? Let's just leave some fencing emojis because that's the mood of today. I don't know if we've done that emoji before. And yeah, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I am constantly uploading bookish content that I am sure you won't want to miss. And if you want more exclusive videos, early access to videos, exclusive live streams, and exclusive Discord, buddy reads, book clubs, journaling content, all of it, I will be leaving the link to my Patreon down below. We call ourselves The Citadel, and it's always a fantastic time over there. Alongside of that, I will also leave all the links to my social media as per usual. And again, a massive shout out to Native for sponsoring today's video. Don't forget that you can check them out over on the link at the top of my description and use my code, which I will be leaving on the screen, so that you guys can get your deodorants for $24, or if you want to check out any of the toothpastes or any of the body washes, you can also get those for 20% off. And yeah, I love you guys so much, and I shall see you on the next one. Bye guys. Thank you.